Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Starting first with the last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation through midnight on Monday, we can see the effects of Tropical Storm Claudette producing a lot of flooding down here in parts of the south over to the Carolinas. And then the weekend storm systems that moved through parts of the Midwest here into the eastern Corn Belt locally put down some very, very heavy rainfall in places that were not well forecast more than just a couple of days of advance. For example, in this part of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, even parts of southern Iowa as well. Now, when we look at this, we're trying to examine kind of the haves and the have-nots and who got the precip and who didn't get it, because in the next 10 days, there are multiple chances due to several cold fronts going through this area to increase the precipitation totals. Because this particular map stopped at 12 a.m., I would like to show you this is what we did get since then, and we do notice that there were some better showers that went through parts of Kansas, and then the rain is spreading today along the boundary stretch here, and a lot of severe weather in parts of the Northeast. So with that as a setup, let's get into understanding what this did, because as those storms came through over the weekend, produced a lot of severe weather from the 16th to the 20th into this area. There were storms outside of that as well, but this is the first time for many in this area that we've seen some severe weather so far this year. And there was a lot of crop damage from hail and also from some very strong straight line winds spread all throughout pockets here of the central and eastern corn, actually the big chunk of the Corn Belt here. My colleague Andrew Pritchard was out chasing. I got to show you one great picture that he got in Pella, Iowa, of this funnel cloud coming down here. And Iowa did get quite a few storms, and there are more on the way, and we better talk about that here in the next few moments, because that's an area that when we look back over the first 3 weeks of June 1st to the 21st, it's very dry. Now, there was some improvement in this area right in through here, as we've been talking about, but still Minnesota, South Dakota, northern Iowa, this section needs a lot more precipitation than what it was just given. Claudette went through an area that was already saturated in through here. So keep this picture in the back of your mind as we start to build out our longer range picture here, because I think a lot of this is going to be changing in the next 10 days. All right. From there, I would encourage you to go watch my more extended video, because we talk about the NDVI analysis. But what I'd like to show you is what's called the Vegetation Health Index. We're to compare it to a year ago. Now, the area that I circled really stands out here on this side of the Rocky Mountains as having a large change in the Vegetation Health Index from a year ago. We're better from Texas through the high plains, where earlier this spring there was a lot of rainfall, basically making things look healthier and more green from space. Where our drought is anchored, though, it is looking much worse than it did a year ago. So a valuable map to analyze here as we think about the comparisons between now and 2020. I want to keep you updated on these soil moisture maps as well. Top 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Major improvement in through this area, in parts of Wisconsin as well. And then we've resaturated the ground where Claudette went through. But there are large pockets where we're not only missing out on the top 4 inches of soil moisture, but it's down deeper. This would be the top 16. Now again, more rain is coming in for this area. In fact, I need to enlarge that circle a little bit, look more like that. How far to the north and west in the upper Midwest and the north central Corn Belt getting into the Canadian Prairie does it get? That's what we're going to try to answer. The story is told in the upper level flow. I'd like to expand this a little bit to show it to you. What you're going to notice here is that as I work through Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday, let's get all the way out to Saturday. How about that? You notice that generally speaking, there's a broader trough over the east. That means multiple fronts come through here as low pressure centers wrap themselves up into the Hudson Bay. And that's going to be the source of the return of rainfall in this area. It's coming out of the open Gulf of Mexico. But this ridge is going to send extremely hot temperatures into the west. Now, how long does that last? Well, playing into next week, this is Monday into Tuesday and Wednesday. This trough seems to linger through much of next week. But will you watch this right here with me? That ridge seems to develop and push back west by the time we get to July the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And that's what I want to watch. Because if that ridge develops there, it's quite common to have another one here and another one there. And that's a triple ridge pattern, which drops the trough over the northwest, builds a ridge in the middle part of the country, and drops the trough off the east coast before another ridge in the North Atlantic. And we're getting some multimodal support here. This is the GFS ensemble. This is the negative PNA pattern. And the European sees the big ridge going over the west in the positive PNA. And then by July 2nd and 3rd, it starts to come back down. And the model really takes it down here to about 2 to 2.5 standard deviations, up to 3 standard deviations below average. That is a pattern change I'm going to be watching for. The tropics aren't adding much to this. There's a 30% chance that this develops, but it's going to be moving into a very unfavorable environment in the Caribbean. We're going to keep an eye on it, but at this point, through the next 5 days, it's not necessarily moving to a place where we're going to get better development. And Claudette is out to open ocean. All right. From there, this might be the second most important map I'm going to show you today. It's through the next 10 days, precipitation probabilities for greater than an inch. And what you notice is there's a pretty hard boundary right there where if you're to the west of that, the probability drops off substantially. Why here such a high probability? Well, there is a large high pressure cell near the surface pumping in that moisture. And the ridge here dives into a broader trough there for much of the next week to 10 days. And that's what's setting you up with this map. Now, as we look out today, let's shrink that up so we can see the whole thing. We're still watching severe storms right here, and they're moving into the northeast this evening. And that is where we have our severe thunderstorm watches and several severe thunderstorm warnings. Down here, it's quite hot. These are heat advisories. And then as you come over into the west, this is all red flag warnings and heat advisories. So let's go straight to our high-res NAM model. What we're going to look at here, let's back this up. There we go. This is this evening, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And you can see that boundary increasing the strong thunderstorm threat here. But it extends back through parts of the Mid-South all the way down to Texas. And that front's going to be a slow mover. As we wake up tomorrow morning on Tuesday, we'll see it pushing over here to the east. Scattered storms around the Great Lakes. And then Tuesday afternoon and evening, probably stretching from maybe Lincoln through Omaha back into parts of central Iowa, maybe to Cedar Rapids. We could get some scattered storms. And then those are going to move into Wednesday morning over northern Illinois, it appears at this point. But after that, this front moves out, and the pattern adjusts again mid to late week for the next system that goes curling up into the Hudson Bay. And let's take a look at that by showing you, let's shrink this up a little, there we go, by showing you our GFS versus European model comparison. All right, let's get to it here. This would be 7 a.m. tomorrow. Let's push through the day on Wednesday. Let's get out here to Thursday morning. There we go. Now on Thursday morning, as that next low takes shape, the frontal boundary will be here. It's in both models. The GFS is more progressive, brings it farther to the east sooner than the 12Z European does. And again, both of these models were released after the markets closed today. As we then go into Thursday night, you can see that the European model leaves that frontal boundary lingering here and brings in a lot of heavy rain. It appears that it'll go from, well, if you just look at this, possibly Minneapolis to Sioux Falls. If you're north of that, the precipitation chances seem to be dwindling right now. We'll watch it carefully. But heavier rains farther to the south and east. The GFS doesn't show much, does it? It has its heaviest rain in Illinois and keeps it there, right on the Illinois, Missouri, Iowa border. As we get into Friday morning, afternoon, and evening, you see the front lingers. And the reason why is because there's high pressure here, so the flow's coming in like that, and the flow on the other side is going like this, so there's not much to push the boundary around. So both models leave it around through Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon and evening. Now getting into Sunday morning, afternoon and evening. See, it still lingers in place here, fed on Gulf moisture, so a lot of scattered storms south. We just see that boundary slowly moving through as we work our way through the next week. And it just sticks around there. This is all the way up to next Tuesday. The Gulf stays open. That's been a narrative so far this spring and early summer. So doing a little bit of model comparison, this is the next 7 days from the European. You can see the effect of that frontal boundary. This is what the GFS says for the next 7 days. Again, European, GFS, and the difference. Remember, on these maps we're now making, this would be where the European is wetter. This would be where the GFS is wetter. Pause the video to take a closer look at the model differences. It's mostly due to thunderstorm activity on the tail end of those fronts. From here, the week 2 pattern, as that potential triple ridge sets up, this will be the area I'll be concerned about. The models have continued to show drier risks in that area going out through the first week of July. Why is it wetter in this area? Stalled out frontal boundaries, fed on Gulf moisture. Both the GFS and the European are consistent with that. Let's talk temperatures. This would be the June 1st to June 21st average temperature by climate district. And from the west through the northern plains into the upper Midwest, we're looking at near record warmth. Now there's some cooler air that's in there right now. In fact, let me take you back here and show you this. That's Monday right here. And Tuesday it extends. We're going to see a cool down in this area overall, although Wednesday is going to be a very warm one from the panhandles of Texas clear through central North and South Dakota. But after that, watch. Here's Thursday's high temperatures compared to normal. Still another hot one here. But as we go from Thursday into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, look at the heat building into the Pacific Northwest under that ridge and the downstream cooling we get here as we go into the weekend of the 26th and 27th. Putting those 5 days together, you get this map. All right. So the greatest heat compared to normal is in the Pacific Northwest, 10 to 15 degrees above normal, which is why evaporation rates in that area are going to be 2 to 3 inches in the Columbia Basin. Same thing for the Snake River Valley. And no moisture is expected to return here outside of some scattered storms on Tuesday coming through this part of Oregon. Those rates are much higher farther to the south. The day 5 through 10 pattern, now we are fully amplified. Cutoff, trough here. Large ridge there. And you can see that we may be getting our temperatures 15 to 20 plus degrees above average in the Pacific Northwest. Now, in the extended video, I'm going to give you more information about the longer range forecast and what this triple ridge might mean. Because the long range European model attempts to keep quite a bit of heat through the month of July here, but spreads it through the Canadian Prairie and the northern tier of the United States. And the precipitation pattern is going to look quite familiar to you. This is what it's looking like through the month of August. What I'm struggling with is where is that divide? Where on one side of it, we consistently have more precipitation fed on Gulf moisture, and on the other side, we tend to be drier. I go into depth with that in the extended video, so take a look at the end of it if you'd like to see. And if not, we'll just talk to you again on Thursday. Appreciate it. Thank you.